Hello, everybody. My name is Shayla Blackshear, your host. Here I'm introducing CherRaye, which is the founder and creator of Browns, which is the leading on-demand beauty services app for you. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. I loved your interview with Do It Now. Really amazing.
Thank you.
So, in your Do It Now interview, you mentioned that you created the entire user journey, the brand, designed the screens, user face. Can you tell us like your background?
Yes, so I graduated from Temple University with a Bachelor of Business Administration and Marketing.
Okay.
And immediately after that, I actually started off in sales. And working in sales for about 3 years, that's when I realized I had an entrepreneurial spirit, just always pushing through and pushing through regardless if you receive a no. And then after a while, I was like, I feel like I'm not really utilizing my full skill set here. So I did a complete switch and went into consumer research and analytics.
Mm.
So after doing that, gathering data, and I realized I was like, I really like this. And so I went to grad school. I graduated from Point Park University with a degree in communication technology.
Oh, awesome.
And yes, thank you. And after working at a couple of tech and SaaS companies, I really started to dive deep into technology, taking some coding classes so I can learn HTML, CSS, a little bit of Java, so I can understand at least the general concept of it. And I currently work at a tech company now, so having that hands-on experience really, helped me put all of my, what would you say? I guess basically all of my different skill sets
Yeah,
together: sales, data, research, and technology. And it wasn't until New York when I lost my job, and then I moved back home. And I said, this is the time to, I said I wanted to do an app. And then when I moved back home, I said, I'm going to use this time, the money I'm saving from not living in expensive New York, to do market research and research into the product development and the market. And then that's how Browns came about. Well, at least the production to get there. Now the idea, that's a whole different story. But yeah, that's my background.
wow, that is really amazing. Just tying into like all the different things like sales, coding, and just all bringing. I like that. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's really good. A great background. So
thank you.
can you share like the origin story of it? So like, what was that like the aha moment when you said, you know what, I have to create this? Well, I know you mentioned that because you were laid off and that was the moment. Is that was the moment for
That
you?
was when I realized I want to definitely have a business for myself.
Mm,
That was when I kind of pushed it off. I was like, oh, that's an idea I'm gonna get to maybe in like a minimum 5 years, 10 years. I'm gonna get to that later.
yeah,
But I noticed, like, with anything can happen at any moment,
absolutely.
and you're never gonna be fully ready to own your own business,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
There's
And I
always
know that
making mistakes.
you're
Yeah,
never going to be ready. I mean, don't get me wrong, don't like just jump into it. Like, do your research,
absolutely.
look into the investment it takes, and things in that nature, but you're never going to be fully ready.
Yeah.
And then, so when I was in new I realized, I was like, it's hard to keep a job now.
Yeah.
Like, anything just to, drop of a fly, oh, we're laying off this department, where
Anything can happen,
anything can happen.
especially like with COVID and everything, and anything can happen. So yeah. But I think it's like great that like sometimes like great things come out of a bad situation and kind of
Yes,
put you in that like your full potential. So, you know,
I
um,
fully agree with that.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So I hear that it's live. Congratulations.
Thank
Um,
you.
so tell us like the steps to go through. So I just downloaded the app. Can you take us through the journey?
Absolutely. So for this is going to be a mouthful because there's so many different functions, but for the client side, I'm going to be try to be as concise as possible. So for the client side, you sign up. And we also took care of the locations glitch that happened when it first launched. So there was a little bug issue there with the location for the iPhone users, of course, of course. But so you sign up, you enter, you create your username, a password. Then you go to the next couple of screens that ask you for your first name, birthday, gender. I wanted this to be very inclusive, so it asks you more than just male, female. It's asking you non-binary, other, transgender female, transgender male. So I wanted it to be as inclusive as possible, and then ask you for your location so that I can help you determine what hairstylists are in that area. And then your profile's oh, hold on, and you have to upload your profile photo.
Yeah.
So then once that setup is done, then you're on the main page, your home screen, and then you choose three questions from the 20 prompt questions that we have, just for user engagement and for others to learn more about each other. Because in the shop talk, which we'll talk more about that later, the community forum on there,
Mhm.
you'll be able to interact with other people, and they can visit your profile. So I just thought that would be like a nice touch, to build more of a social engagement. And so then you go to the magnifying glass, which is the second icon to the right. And then you could either search for the provider that you are, like if you already have a hairstylist in mind, you can already search for them in the search bar,
Oh, nice.
or you can go in the map, and then we can help you find one by answering a set of questions, by determining your price criteria, distance criteria, the style you're looking for, you name it. So then from that point, you type that all in, and then if think of it like Tinder, they're matching you with someone who matches your, criteria, and then we match you with the ideal stylist that were in your ideal criteria. So that's the client side. And also another feature, like I said, is the Shop Talk community forum. That's the third icon to the right. It's two hands holding each other, and that's just where you go to talk about different topics, engage with one another, ask questions, get some advice, what you name it, talk about, the latest news, whatever the case may be.
No, when I downloaded the app, I thought it was so cool that it was like share your hair story and
Yep.
stuff like that. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like to kind of get that engagement to make it feel like a community. That was
Yes.
yeah,
We
that
wanted to
was
build a community around our beauty, our Black and brown beauty that often gets marginalized. So that was the biggest concept around the app community.
yeah.
And then for the provider side, it's a little bit more in depth. So same as a client, name, profile, location, gender, but then also you have to upload your beauty license.
Mhm.
So that is just to help with clients. That helps your credibility.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah, absolutely.
you know what I mean? That's like a
Yeah,
marketing edge. So your clients can see on your profile you have your beauty license.
yeah,
So then you do that, and then their experience is very different from the client side. So then you choose your subscription. Right now, we're waiving fees until the end of July.
oh, okay.
Just so, yeah,
Yeah,
just so I know last year a lot of hairstylists lost money from not being open.
yeah, yeah,
So, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I was just had to read the room a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that one, we also need to build more clientele on our app, and I'm not a fan of taking money from people when they're not getting the service they need.
yeah.
And two, we just are starting, not even fully, just starting to bounce back. So, and depending on where we're at that time, I may extend it longer.
Okay. What has been like your strategy to like reach out to hairstylists to join the app?
Honestly, social media.
Social media, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Reaching out on Facebook, going, and there's different hairstylist groups on Facebook.
Okay.
There's different Instagram groups. Well, not Instagram groups, but if you go into the hashtag Philly hairstylist, looking at all the hairstylists, reaching out to them that way. One of my strategies, I would love to get more in person, get in person, visiting hair salons, myself. But
Yeah.
right
It's so
now,
hard now. Yeah.
it's hard. And
Yeah.
plus, I don't want to be selfish and I know there's salons open, but clearly, they have people waiting in cars and only
Hmm.
one person in the shop at a time,
Yeah.
or like if you don't have an appointment, don't stop by. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just trying to put aside my needs and just be more patient. But I would love to like visit salons and introduce myself and
Mhm.
things in that nature and attend events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I've been seeing, like you've been going to like a lot of pop-up
Yep.
things and things like that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes. Actually, that's how I met the first Philly hairstylist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I met her at that pop-up shop. She was like, "You look familiar." And I had her on my list to reach out to. I kid you not, I followed her, all of that. And she was like, "You look so familiar." And then when she gave me her Instagram, I was like, "That's why." Like I was like, "I kid you not, I've been wanting to invite you to my launch party. I had you on my list to reach out to." I was like, "This was meant to be."
Yeah.
So I've been to how many just one pop-up so far.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
socially
think
distanced.
yeah, yeah. I definitely understand that. So when you say like hairstylists and like barbers, does that include like nails? I don't know the proper term.
No, it's okay. Yeah, there's
I
nail technicians, makeup artists, and estheticians.
Mhm.
The roadmap plans. We're planning for that to come next year. Right now, I want to
Okay.
focus on the hair segment
Yeah.
because that's a beast in itself,
Hmm.
and then start rolling out different segments like nails, skincare, makeup artists.
Oh,
The
wow.
estheticians piece is I want to consult with a lawyer
Mhm.
because waxing is often included
Oh,
in the service, and
yeah.
I just want to. I mean, I'm just a medium. I'm just here to connect, the
Yeah.
provider and the client, but just to cover my
Oh, yeah.
tail,
Yeah.
I want to just say, hey, I have this, I'm providing this platform for them to, is there any risk behind it? So I have to do some more research in that.
Yeah. So after the launch and everyone was able to download it, was there any challenges? I know you mentioned like the location. Was that the only, how did you solve that?
uh this is going to turn into a rant session, event rant. Oh my goodness. I'm still actually fixing some bugs right now. There are a couple users that reached out and said they had an issue with the password requirements. So I completely lifted that. For some reason, in the code it didn't completely lift. So next week it'll be fully, like there won't be any like you need this uppercase letter, a special character here. And so that's one challenge.
Yeah.
um the bug fix with the locations issue, that was pulling teeth. I didn't have time to fix that. I got
Mhm.
my developing team to do that.
Okay.
I was like, look, there's something in, I read through the Apple developers security system, and it was something with not being able to read that they accepted it like right there and then. They had to go to their settings, put always on. And I think the reason behind that is because in the code, the argument was, well, let me not get too technical, but basically the code was saying that because there's push notifications, there's email notifications, there's it changes based on where you're at and your location. So the settings had to always be on. So
Okay.
always, so that's where the issue became. And then people had to log out and then log back in that had to get fixed.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, right now, the biggest challenge is getting hairstylists on the platform. So this
Mhm.
is where my sales skill set has to go into overdrive right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and business development, and hi, how are you?
Yeah.
And introduce the benefits of it. My motto, I don't like my motto is don't sell your business, tell people about your business. So I don't like to do the just predatory
Yeah,
jump,
yeah.
pouncing on people. You tell, eventually people will start to
You
see,
will catch
and then
on, and yeah, word of
mhm,
mouth, and yeah, absolutely, reviews. Yeah,
yeah.
great point. Um, so like, let's say if I wanted to do an app, and but I just have the idea, but I'm not really like, I don't know too much about coding. How did you
Okay.
find like your developers and like your team? How did you establish that?
Yeah, so I found them on Fiverr Pro.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
would recommend using the pro services. Do not, people say they know how to code and they're a full stack developer, but they're not. So go for the pro services because they're fully vetted, and
Yeah.
if anything
Does
happens.
it show like pro on their like on their profile? It shows like pro.
Yep.
Oh,
hmm it's literally like a tab on Fiverr where you just click on pro,
mhm.
and only vendors who have pro services are shown. And I basically did like an interview. This is where you kind of have to at least have like project management experience. Like you have to map out your requirements. I already had the user journey mapped out. So, I told them like what functionality I wanted, where I wanted a certain action to land the customer, and I already had it all mapped out. There
Mhm.
was like some pieces of the logic I had to like fill in, what happens if a stylist, their calendar's booked, but someone's trying to send in a request, or say that they complete the hair service, but the customer never got the service. So how do I prevent fraud from happening? So
Yeah, yeah,
you got to really just lay out. I would say first start out with your idea. Just
yeah,
write it out. Don't try to make it perfect, just write it out. Then tweak it to make it logically make sense. Like, okay, now create the map. How do you want this? Like, where do you want people to go? What action? What's the motivation behind it? What's How do you want your engagement? You need them to come back to the app in order to increase engagement. So once you map all that out, you'll at least have a solid foundation to help you develop the app. Now I do have some code. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert at all. I would say I'm pretty beginner, slowly getting into intermediate.
mhm.
So I'm able to talk to the developers and tell them exactly like what needs to be fixed. And
Yeah.
it's just out of my bandwidth to do it
Well,
myself.
that's amazing because like you can kind of like you have the language to kind of communicate with them because you have a
Mhm.
basic understanding about
And
certain
that,
stuff. Yeah, it's important.
yes, and
Yeah,
that's important. I mean, if you don't know it, you can still do it. You can
yeah,
still create the app, but it's important because I mean, my team was great, but
yeah,
there's others out there that will take advantage of you.
yeah, yeah. Because you don't know. Yeah, yeah,
And then they'll say like, "Oh, I thought you meant you wanted this," and then before you know it, they're billing you more
yeah,
development hours because they have to go back and fix
yeah.
the
But
issue because there was no clarification. So that's where having that education is helpful, but it's not 100% necessary. You can do it, but it's still important to do some research.
what's like the estimated like if I wanted to do it, what's like the estimated cost that I would have to like budget to make sure that I can make it like successful?
It depends on what your idea is.
Mm,
It
okay,
can range from $2,000 to $40,000.
okay.
Yeah. So it really depends on the functionality, how complex the requirements are with creating the app and the coding, and what integrations are involved, what APIs need to be used. So, for example, I have a PayPal integration, so we had to use a
Mhm,
PayPal API. I also had to include the Google Maps API so
mhm.
people can pick up
Oh,
on the.
that's right. Yeah, the
Mhm.
location. Right.
Yes, and that takes heavy work to include in the coding. But my initial investment was 20K. So Yeah.
Wow. You really had
Mhm.
to believe in yourself. Wow, that is yeah,
Listen,
yeah,
listen.
it has
There
to
was no turning back. I was like, look, you better be serious about
yeah,
doing this. This isn't no hobby. Like
yeah, yeah,
this
it's
could have went
really
toward the
like
down payment on a house.
yeah, yeah. But like some like that's really like a motivation factor when you put that much into it, you like,
Oh,
okay, it has to work. We're
yeah.
gonna figure this out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The minute I'm not gonna lie, there's some days I'm like, why am I doing it? But then I don't even let that sentence finish because I think about all that money and money I'm still spending. And I'm like, no, yeah, this is not gonna, no, you better keep going.
So I know in like your Do It Now interview, you said it's important to like know who's telling your story. Can you like elaborate on that?
Yes. So I own the app 100%. I didn't reach out to any investors or gather any investors to put any funding towards this. And if I mean, that's not a knock to anybody who had. That's just me being my controlling self
Yeah.
and wanting to, control the vision. But I bring that up to say that, when you do have investors, and sometimes they end up starting to
Mm,
have more input in your,
yeah.
your dream.
Yeah.
And ownership is very important to me. And
Absolutely.
I don't know the exact statistic, and I'm someone, I love numbers, I love statistics, and but there's not a lot of Black owners out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know, look, I get it, there's a couple of brands that start off Black owned and then they sold their brand and it became owned by a majority white owned
Yeah.
brand, and that's catering to a Black or a brown audience. Then the mission and the story gets
Yeah.
muddy, and
Diluted.
then you know what I mean, and then the
Yeah.
mission gets dismantled, and then it's like, wow, now your initial audience is kind of, it feels neglected, and then that initial audience, which in these cases, Black and brown people are like, oh, that was something for us, and now we don't got that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So my thing is, whenever I talk about ownership, funding, and who tells your story,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying I'm the savior for all Black people, no, not whatsoever. But it's important that ownership is just so important
It really
because
is.
you get to control the narrative,
Yeah.
but also that comes with social responsibility as well.
Mhm.
And that's helping setting for the future, a foundation for the future of how we want to tell our story and who we want to represent us. For
Absolutely.
example, Browns, clearly it's for Black and brown
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people who are white who signed up. I was like, okay, all right.
We love
That's if you feel like this happens, go ahead, by all means.
yeah.
But say I sold 51, just not 50, 51% to an old white man.
Mhm.
Then before you know it,
Mhm.
it gets catered to, women with European textured hair.
Yeah.
The messaging is very different, the benefits are different, the features change, and then before you know it, it's another Google, it's a
Yeah.
Yelp,
Yep.
you know. Um, and that was another reason why I wanted to create Browns, because there were some people who were like, well, isn't that a little offensive and that's not inclusive? I was like, well, let me ask you this: when you type in Google hairstyles, what comes up?
Right.
You
Yep.
don't see no Black hairstyles. You have to literally type in African American braiding studio,
Yeah.
Black hairstylist, and like, we're not the
Yeah.
at front of top of mind.
Yeah. It honestly like it really reminds me of the this story I read on like the famous Amos cookies. I did not know originally it was Black owned
Yep.
until he started selling pieces and pieces of his business. Then when he tried to do his own thing, he couldn't even use his name anymore. He
Exactly.
couldn't even use it anymore. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness. Yeah. So I know exactly what you're saying. Mm,
And then my mom, she always jokes with me. She's like, you're such a radical hippie, and but she just mess with me because she knows how passionate I am about this stuff. But that's a really great example that you bring up, because what happened, he couldn't even
yeah.
use his own name that
Couldn't use his
he.
own name. I didn't even know it was Black owned, and I eat
Yeah.
cookies. I didn't even know it was. Well, originally it was black. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
I remember reading about that, and I was just like, see, this is, and then also it gets even deeper to who tells your story.
Mhm.
Once you start also having, say, the owner really starts pulling in millions,
Yeah, yeah,
that hopefully if they have the right social responsibility, that
mhm.
also gets funded back into their community.
Yeah. It should. Yeah,
It
yeah,
should, I mean, that's my plan. My plan's not to just soak up all the wealth and just be
right.
greedy. Like I know how to live off a couple $1,000s, okay? So and I come from an inner city environment,
Mhm.
and where you had fun, made the best out of little to none. And then I moved into the suburbs where I was like, this is way boring than living
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
inner
yeah,
city. There's a cost to it, but anyway, you know, when there's more black and brown owners, there's people looking up to you. There's kids who now, feel more confident to get into the industries
right.
that you are. It's not just, oh, I need a at basketball scholarship to get into school, or it's not, oh, I'm going to be a singer. Not that, and there's
Right,
nothing wrong with
exactly. Yeah,
that. We
yeah, yeah.
need that. That's what helped pulled us through the pandemic,
Definitely. Yeah,
arts. But black and brown people are bigger than that.
mhm.
And I'm starting to see more of us in tech. I'm
Yeah,
starting to see more of us in just other STEM,
exactly.
fields.
Yeah,
And once that one person starts, generating wealth and then giving it back to their communities, then you start seeing them being uplifted, that you start seeing them grow. They start starting businesses, they start nonprofits. So when I say who tells your story, I mean like who really tells the
yeah,
story, not just the beginning, like who is really like writing the book.
yeah. And that's like exactly why I started this page and doing
I
this
love it.
is that point exactly. Just reaching out, funding, helping other people. Exactly.
I
So
can't wait to get your book too, by the way. So
thank you, thank you, thank you.
yes,
Please let me know what you think.
I'll do a review and everything, definitely.
Thank you. So how do you plan on like growing your app? I know you mentioned that you want to do like 2.0 features and stuff like that. How do you plan on growing it?
So right now, life is busy. I'm still getting hairstylists on the platform, and I'm also working on phase two of the features.
Okay.
So it's going to look slightly different in a couple of months. I'm not going to say exactly what's coming up, but I can say I can give you a couple of excuse me, clues. So right now it's pretty, I would say, cookie cutter with selecting services. So I uploaded services that, you could easily just import into your portfolio. But also some stylists were like, yo, can you customize these services? Because this ain't exactly, and I was like, okay, all right, so let me take a step back, put that in the product development for phase two. So in the next set, your hairstylist will also be able to add customized services in their portfolio,
Okay.
and also edit the price. So say, you always have that one customer who comes in late, and they know they weren't supposed to be late. And
Yeah.
now you got to give them a $10 late fee.
Mhm.
So once the service is over, you can also be able to add on late fees or cancellation fees, after the fact, after the event taking place. And I'm trying to think what other, there's a really big feature that's coming, but I can't announce it yet. I'm going to Beyonce drop it, just drop it out of
Just-
nowhere.
okay. I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting.
Yes, I think that's probably going to be I think that's going to be my next favorite feature, that one.
Yeah.
And there's, oh, also on the client profile, now you get to select your tender head level.
Okay.
So yeah, so it'll be from a scale of 1 to 10. And the logic behind that was some hairstylists, they need an idea of like who their potential client is, if they're getting to know them for the first time. So
Yeah.
like, okay, I see you have 4C hair, that's already on there, what hair type you have.
Yeah.
But then like if you're asking for micro braids, like
Right. Yeah.
how
You can.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean, how
Yeah.
tenderhead are you, or
Yeah.
how tight, what tension do you have, so I wanted to add that as well, and so the provider can also get a better sense of who they're working with.
Okay. So when what kind of like advice do you have for someone who like who wants to do what you want to do or wants to be an entrepreneur, kind of just want to get started?
Well, before you get started, go on a nice 1 week vacation if you can afford to do so. I would say that. I would say that.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of like getting into tech or just entrepreneurship in general.
I would say tech. I'm gonna say tech.
Okay. So tech, I would definitely you know what? I hated sales. I was so good at it, but it was the monotony of it, like just the repetitiveness.
Yeah.
I think that's like a really good first job to have though, because you got
Yeah.
to know how to persevere
Yeah.
through the no's. You're going
Yeah.
to hear more no's than yes.
Yeah. Because you have to have thick skin. You because
Yeah.
can be very rude and yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You gotta have thick skin. I agree. I think that's a good way to start. Yeah, absolutely.
I really do. And I know, and I know it's hard to get out of that mindset. Like, what that has nothing to do with tech, but if you're going to be the entrepreneur, if you're
Yeah.
starting off, you're not going to have that. I mean, maybe you will, I don't know.
Yeah.
But starting off, you are the business developer too, the
Yeah.
business development manager, I should say. So you're going to be reaching out to people.
Oh yeah.
And you say you do want investors. You got to know how to say, sell yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they'll probably take advantage or
Ooh.
yeah.
And then before you know, when you read that contract, you only own 33% of your company. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Or, they may try to talk you into a corner, and you got to know how to negotiate. That's
Yeah.
another part of sales, negotiations.
Absolutely.
So I would say, like, this is anyone coming out of high school, college, get
Mhm.
into sales, business development, account
Mhm.
management. You got to build. I swear, after a while, like people said mean things to me, and it just rolled off
Yeah.
my
Yeah. Yeah.
shoulder. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, next. I don't care. You're not giving me money. Um, so I would, build that skill. And you do not. I mean, if I would recommend, if you go to college, if you decide to go to college,
Mhm.
study computer science.
Computer science. Okay. Mm.
Study computer science. If not computer science, maybe IT,
Mm.
just so you can understand project requirements and be a decent project manager, which would help you.
Yeah.
Because then if you do get a development team, you'll know how to like move this the development along. But I would definitely recommend computer science. But or if not, get a business degree. I would say mainly. I'm trying to think what branch of business would best benefit you. I'm probably biased. I graduated marketing, but I don't have to pay a marketing person to,
Yeah.
and that's money.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah.
So I mean, I would say accounting, but whatever. Um, but if you don't, basically, I'm going on a tangent. But if you go to school for whatever, at least take some courses on Udemy. Even YouTube has
Mhm.
some courses on there by users on there who just want to educate people. Practice coding as much as possible
Mm. Okay.
and get a general understanding. I'm not saying you have to be the expert at CSS and JavaScript and all of it, but just get a general understanding of it.
Yeah.
And you really don't have to go to school for it, but I would say I recommend it.
Yeah.
And then also, if you do decide to get a sales job, get a sales job at a tech company.
Ah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So get a sales job at like Yelp or MailChimp, Shopify, because you guess what? You're going to surround yourself around developers,
Yeah.
solutions architects,
Yeah.
the marketing team.
Yep. That's true.
So then you're going to be able to learn, talk with them. And sales is like the middle piece to like you're the most valued in the company, because if there's no sales, there's nobody got jobs at that
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to communicate with many different, departments.
Hmm.
So, because then also the engineers, they'll say, well, hey, what feedback do you get from the prospects? Or why aren't they deciding? And you'll be able to sit in those meetings and learn more about it. But I would say go to a tech company, because you'll learn so much, and
Yeah.
you'll know that'll help you with your business. You'll be able to say, okay,
Absolutely.
I need this, I
Yeah.
need that for my business, and just soak it all in.
Yeah. It was my second job was I was a I wasn't a trainer, but I used to sell training packages for like new
Uh huh.
companies. So like when people sign up for LA Fitness, I would receive it and I reached out to them like, hey, do you want to do these training services? Take them on a like a pre-workout. But the different strategies that they taught me on how to get a sale. So it was like you want to put magazines of like fit people in front of
Mm-hmm.
them. You want to check their BMI because more than likely it'll be high. So you'll be like, oh wow. And then you want to ask them their expenses just in case they say it's too high or something. Well, you eat at McDonald's at $100. Well, if we took that away, you can afford it. I was like, wow, so
Yep.
different like strategies. Yeah, it's I
Uh-huh.
definitely agree. Sales. Our last question. So where can our listeners find you?
Oh, okay. So you can find me if I'm not in my room, just building away. You can find me virtually on Instagram at CherRaye_official. So that's CHERRAYE_official OFFICIAL. And I'm trying to think. And then you can find Brownce at Brownce app. So that's BROWNCEAPP.